Hi, I'm Nettie from One Foot in Both Worlds, and today we're going to talk about how you connect with spirit. And to do that, we need to understand frequency or wavelengths in energy. So energy is actually measured in wavelengths and in frequency. In the case of frequency, the more waves that hit something at once, the higher the frequency. The less waves, the lower the frequency. And then when it comes to wavelengths, the shorter the wavelengths, the higher the energy, and the longer the wavelengths, the lower the energy. Okay, we're talking about a fairly complex subject, so we're going to actually just do the very simplistic version. It's really all we need to know to understand how the energies of spirits actually talk to us, and in particular how mediums get their information and how intuition comes in. Okay, so if we look at sound and light, they're probably the most obvious ones that we can think about. They showed me that some of the sort of memories I had that I could discuss with that. And one of them was we get jets that fly over here every now and then on a training schedule, and it's just, maybe once every 2 months. And if you hear them, it means that they've already passed. So these superjets are going faster than the speed of light, in effect. And so their sound frequency and their visual light frequency are actually at two different levels. So sometimes I look up and I'll actually see them, and then I know that soon I'm going to hear them, which is, super cool. But the reason they were showing me that is that even though something in our real life seems to be in one position, they can actually have two sort of wavelengths going on that will hit our senses at different times. So we'll see it and we'll hear it, even though it's the same object in the same space at different times. Okay. They also wanted to sort of show you that. So you walk around, and every day there's energy around us moving in frequencies or in wavelengths, and it's bouncing off, and so that's how we can hear things. Our conscious brain is attached to certain energy, and we can actually hear, see, feel certain things. Now, just because someone sitting next to you might be able to hear a sound or feel something, it doesn't mean that you're not sitting in the same frequency waves as what you are. You actually are. It's just that your senses, your conscious senses, aren't accessing it. It's like, for instance, if you look around the room that you're in now and assume it's midnight or you're in a room without windows. I mean, as you can see behind me, I'm in a room with massive windows. But if you were to turn the light off and it was pitch black, it doesn't mean that the furniture and the things that you could see where the light was on have gone. They are still there, and I promise you, if you walk around, you will bump into them and you will feel that they are there. But the light is no longer being able, the light waves can no longer hit your eyes to give you an image, if that makes sense. And I'm definitely the science of this, you need to sort of put that aside to a certain degree, because they're showing this as an analogy. If I was to turn a torch on, I could actually hold that torch down to one spot. If there was 4 of us in a room and we all turned our torch on, we would actually have our torch shining on whatever we are near, right? Whatever we can actually see. And so although we are in the same room, in the same environment, we are actually seeing different images. Okay. So just like that, whatever we're tuned into, whichever frequency we're tuned into, we will hear different. My husband loves music. Okay, so he has music playing 90% of the time. And sometimes the sound that he is hearing will completely irritate me. It's almost like it's hitting on a bad frequency, and I just can't put up with it anymore. Noise sensitivity is a big one for me. I spend a lot of time sort of in my pineal, in between my conscious and my subconscious, and that's the way I receive such intuitive information. And because I am sitting there, it means that the frequency that I'm coming in and the frequency my husband are coming in at are not the same. And so sounds that will irritate me will be fine to him. In fact, they actually get him to sit and be calm, and vice versa. Now, it doesn't mean that the same sound isn't there. It's exactly the same sound. It's just that the level that I'm hearing at when I'm actually tuning into a different frequency is different to what he's hearing it at. So I'm hearing like a high pitch kind of, it's just almost annoying sound to my brain, whereas his brain, it's just this beautiful calming kind of sound. Okay, so we imagine ourselves, we've all got energy running around us at different frequencies and at different sound levels. We individually tune into different energies, into our conscious and into our subconscious. They are always there, as we just said. Animals and plants, interestingly, they were showing me to remember, they're just popping pictures up in front of me now to add that to the mix, that animals and sounds also rely very much. Anyone who's got a dog, sometimes they will react to sounds different to what we are. They're actually tuned into a different frequency than what we are, and so they'll get these sounds that they can hear that we can't. Birds in particular have different sound levels, they're showing me. Plants, they will actually send across different energy through wavelengths to tell each other information to pull your flowers in or pull your plants in because there's a predator coming along. Actually, we saw that in Africa. Yeah, they had these trees that they almost whispered to each other down the track, so that if the giraffes were coming and eating from them, or the elephants, I can't remember which one it was, they would tell the next trees to pull your things in and don't get eaten. It's pretty cool. Okay, so we can kind of have these frequencies and sounds changing and coming through, and it depends on where we tune into it. So when we talk about our pineal, which sits in between our conscious and our subconscious, and it's a place that we can sort of access conscious memories and function consciously, but also we can access into our subconscious as well, information that we need. In that, we can actually go to a level where we tune into different frequencies than we are in our conscious or straight in our subconscious. So when you hear about like astrologists or scientists talking about, these energies being stronger, and in fact, when you hear about a lot of intuitives, a lot of psychics and mediums, they will actually talk about different sound waves coming, and it's heavy energy coming, and we're all going to have this because of this energy. What they're actually talking about is that the sound waves and the wavelength and the frequencies are actually going to be shorter or longer. In many cases, it's that they're going to be shorter and they're going to be closer, and they're going to be higher. So there's more sound waves at the one time in an area. And so they're talking about how that will affect you, because you're normally sitting at a frequency, but when the frequency levels come down to a lower around the earth, you actually can tune into things. So they're showing me a moon at the moment, so they're talking about the full moon, and when that light frequency stays overnight and leading up to the full moon, compared to when there's barely a moon out, they're showing me that we will tune into different frequencies overnight. So when we're sleeping and our subconscious is actually taking in all that energy, we'll get it at a different level than we will be able to get it outside of that. So it's quite interesting, because I've never been a massive fan of these things where people say the frequency is running low, everyone's going to do this, because my logic side says, hang on, well, everyone doesn't do that. But I think it's just a holistic view, and I think there's a lesson for me to take away on that, and understanding that I need to be less logical in that, and to actually understand that what they're saying as a collective, when an energy or frequency changes in a certain area, that there is more likely that you will be able to tune into new sounds actually listen into your subconscious, and so get those energies of past spirits and those extra feelings and things like that around. They're also showing me that certain areas will have geographically will have lower or higher frequencies, and so they will be known to be quite spiritual places. In Australia we have a few of those, and I know America, everywhere all over the world has them, but there's some indigenous sites in Australia where I know people go, and there is just this beautiful feeling. Uluru is one of those places, and you go there and you can just walk around and feel the spirit and the energy around, and that's because the wavelengths and the frequency waves are higher, and the wavelengths are shorter, so you do get this higher connection to spirit. Okay, and the question I suppose that we need to understand is, can we actually make a difference? Can we change the frequency that we listen to? Can we hear at different wavelengths and therefore receive different energy and become more in contact with our intuitive side? Or, can we go from non-mediumship to mediumship? And the answer is a huge yes. It's not as easy as that, but actually the openness to know that that is capable of doing it and understanding the theories behind it is a really good start. And learning to control your mind where you can actually sit back in your pineal is a really important thing. If you get a chance to do a course with someone, if you're not already familiar how to do that, take it up. It's a really good one. I'm hoping that Tanya's going to do some on One Foot in Both World coming up. So if you get a chance to do part of that, but there's Nancy Rebecca does some really good work with that, and Perry Beals, I'm sure if you got a one-on-one with her, she'd be able to do it. So we've got a whole bunch of people that we can go on and learn how to do that thing. But definitely, fingers crossed, Tanya will do some of that, and if she opens up a class, jump on that, because it is an amazing one to learn. Okay, so consciously, let's talk about that first. How can we do it? Let's talk about some very basic sort of stuff that if you went to the course and you'd get more complex in it. But some of the ways we can do it is actually to calm our mind. So when we are super busy, our conscious mind is very much in the front of our forethought. It's just trying to deal with everything that's going on and manage all the spot fires that it needs to manage. Whether they're positive or negative, it's still got all these actual physical things that it needs to be done. And that is absolutely fantastic, because we are conscious beings with, a body, and we should be doing that. But if you want to actually take that moment to be in an almost calmer place, even when you're in that busy, to be able to move slightly to the back of that consciousness, closer to your subconscious, and get both of them at once, is a really great place to be. And you're actually on a different frequency and a different wavelength. So to do that, you need to calm your mind. And there's lots of ways of actually doing that. I mean, meditation, we're all familiar with that. You can sit in different forms of meditation, whether it's sound meditation or whether it's just quiet meditation. Sitting within yourself is always a good start. Also, the energy releasing. So you can actually have blocked energy that will stop and build up in your body and stop you from fully being able to connect through your own body. So remember, when these sound waves are coming through and these energies and frequencies are coming, these wavelengths coming through, it's not only your mind that's doing it, it's actually your physical body. So your nervous system is actually picking up all these sounds. So you might feel something, you go, oh, I just felt that, so it's your whole body that you actually want to relax and calm. So any energy blocks that are in your body will actually make a difference. Mindfulness practice, so having practice where you do some deep breaths in and out. And there's a few people, Kerry, a good girlfriend of mine, I'll put this in the notes, she has just finished writing a book, and she does a Sweet 16, and it's a very short 16-second kind of way of calming down your nervous system. So those who, I'll put a link to jump on to see how she does that as well. We might even be able to put it onto our website page. We get Kerry to actually do it for us. But those types of things are ones that can actually calm you and center you. And what happens is when you release that and your body's not so forward in its consciousness, it can move back and catch new frequencies, and then you might start to hear and see things that you haven't before, and just know things and feel things. So removing distractions is always a good way. Walking in the bush, listening to music, water and air, they actually are energy, and they have different frequencies and different wavelengths that they can actually travel through within themselves. The sun and the moon, same thing. So spending time actually out in the warmth of the sun or sitting out in the moonlight are really good ways of doing it. And obviously, one of the main things for our subconscious is to get ourselves to be able to sleep well. So our subconscious works both, obviously, all the time, both when we're awake and asleep. But in our sleep period, if you go back and have a look at this series of the subconscious, and also Talia and I did something ages ago, series 2, I think, on sleep. Have a look at both of those if you're having trouble sleeping, because it will help to explain the importance of sleeping, and also that spirit is with us all the time when we sleep. And it's doing a lot of work. So no one is alone. I remember when they first told me that, I thought, oh, that's awesome. It doesn't matter if you can't see them or feel them, they're all there. And that is important to know. But at the same time, from our consciousness, we would like to be able to feel and see them. And even if you can't feel and see them, but you put yourself into your pineal, you will actually make calmer, better decisions in doing that. It just gets yourself where you can not get caught up in an emotion or a energy reaction. You know, someone comes in the room and you're already there to argue before they've even said anything, because you're like, oh, I know what they're going to say. You know, and when you sit back in there, for some reason you're just not as worried, and you're like, come in, and you sort of, the emotions get to a point where you can easily manage them, and they're not managing you. And I think learning to manage energy rather than be managed by it is really, really important. We also do a series on energy releasing, so look back on that if you're interested. If you've got some blocks that you're aware of, or some traumas or things like that in your life, that's a really good way of doing that. Okay, so to summarize, what we need to understand is that energy moves through frequency and wavelengths, and energy is actually spirit. So if we want to feel and see spirit differently to the way we are now, we need to put practices in to make sure we can change those frequencies, and we can absolutely do that. They're showing me actually someone who has had a near-death experience, or had some sort of trauma, or had just a very unusual deep sleep night, or an operation where they've been put under anesthetic, and they're showing me these different scenarios. And then they've got an equal sign, so they're showing that some people can go from having little to no kind of understanding that they're intuitive to very intuitive afterwards. And the reason it is during that time, their nervous system and their subconscious and conscious actually changed and hit another frequency. And so when they wake up, nothing's changed. There's not any more or different, like I was saying with that room that's dark. The furniture's still there that was there before. It's just that now they've turned lights on in different areas, and you're able to see and feel those. And I know I've got a lot of girlfriends that in the last few years have been really working on themselves and who they are, and really reflecting back in and doing a lot of self-healing, I suppose, doing the energy work that they want to do, and just also asking themselves the question of, you know, am I happy? Does this feel right for me? Does that not feel right? And then they have become much calmer, and they do sit at different frequencies. So when I catch up with them, I feel a different frequency when I see them. and I can access their spirits in a different way than and their guides and their information from their ancestors in a completely different way than I could before. And for one of them, it used to be quite full on, like they would just come in because they were trying to talk to their loved one, but they couldn't get the message through. And as that person has actually changed their frequency themselves, the level that they hear things on, they're less reliant on me giving information, and the intuition of that person is actually being heightened. It's funny actually, because often we don't see it ourselves. We're like, oh, I don't feel any different. And then you sort of think back, oh, hang on a minute, maybe I am. It's like, you know, a teenager growing taller, someone comes and sees them down the track and they're like, oh my gosh, you were like this high and now you're this high. And Tanya's son at the moment is, you know, he was like, you know, way below Tanya's height. Now he's towering above. And so often when we're on, he'll pop in the background and say, Nettie, look how tall I am. And they'll stand up and we'll look at, and I'll notice it more because I'm not seeing it every day. So it's like that with your intuition, and you can change frequencies very easily. You can also, this is my summary, so they're giving me more information. I'm trying to summarize. So sorry, I've obviously missed a few things that they wanted me to tell you. They're also saying that you can change frequencies a lot, even just during the day. So, and you can go in and out of conscious and pineal and into your subconscious. You can move through those, and so you can switch on to different frequencies as you do that, just in the same moment. But in particular, when you go for a walk and you calm down your nervous systems and those sorts of things, you'll find you'll just start free thinking a lot more, because you pop into a different frequencies. It's also, it'd be interesting for anyone to write in the comments whether they have times where they find that, where they can hear things more than other times, or whether they can see things, or any little stories like that. If you've had a story like I spoke about before, where you've had an operation or you've had an accident, or even just a moment where something happened, a grief is one that can trigger it, where you've actually become so much more intuitive now. It'd be really interesting to talk about it, and we may even get you on to talk about your own experience. Thank you. I hope you understand frequency a little bit more, and it's a little bit less kind of out there. It's like everything that has been part of this new piece, puzzle kind of part that they've been given us. It's not complex in its it is simple in its front of house, but it's the back end that's complex. But we don't need to understand that. We just need to understand it. So we need to know when the full moon's out. That is why we have we may hear or see, or you know, things like that. Hospitals often say that, you know, everything goes crazy during that time. And it's because the frequency of light does actually make a difference to what we receive and how we feel and all those sorts of things. So that's it for me now. Be kind, and I hope you have got something out of this. Like and subscribe if you'd like to know more. We've got some exciting stuff. We're also going to jump on and rehash and hash out, I should say, a lot of this new information that we're getting and how it relates to us. Tanya will be on then, and Tanya is absolutely brilliant with life stories, so no doubt we will laugh and cry along with her in those as well. She brings such a joy to the podcast with her life stories, the poor girl, and I appreciate her vulnerability to do that, and I know that Spirit, she gets a bit grumpy at times with Spirit, but you know, I think for all of us listening, she brings such love stories, you know, and a real life. So thank you, Tanya.